In this session, we will review the processes with respect to claims and the payment of benefits under insurance policies. With respect to the claims process, there are obviously basic requirements that insurance companies need to have on file in order to process the claim and also to ensure that the claim is valid. And so in the event of a life insurance policy, there's going to have to be proof satisfactory to prove that the insured, the life insured, has in fact died. And in addition to that, the entity that is making the claim has to prove and demonstrate that they are in fact entitled to claim that benefit. You'll also find that the role of the agent in the claims process can in fact vary by company. Now, most companies, if an agent has been designated and is on the record as being the agent of record for the client, then if the insurer receives notification of the death of a life insured, then they would normally notify the agent and get the agent on record involved in the claims process. Remember that in certain scenarios, it is either the executor of the deceased will or maybe one of the beneficiaries that may in fact notify the insurance company, and the insurance company then will likely, if there is an agent of record on file, communicate with that agent and ask them to get involved. If there is no agent on file, then the claims department of the insurance company will deal directly with the individual or the entity that is submitting the claim. Now, the claimant, obviously, if it is a life insurance policy, it's going to be either the beneficiaries or the insured's estate, or maybe the executor of the will that would be putting through the claim. If it is for a living benefit type of a policy, so this might be a disability policy or a critical illness type of a policy, or maybe a situation where the policy is on a third party. So the insured or the owner of the policy is still alive, but the life insured has passed away, and so the owner of the policy is eligible to submit a claim on that policy. So again, your claimant can be different individuals or entities depending on the actual scenario. You may have a situation where a policy was assigned as collateral. Maybe it's been assigned as collateral for a loan, and so that policy, the assignee, having found out that the lender, the person that's borrowed money from them is deceased, they may in fact put through the claim. So the claimant, again, can be different individuals, and obviously the claimant is going to have to demonstrate that they are in fact entitled to make that claim. Now, the insurer will pay the benefits to the most recent beneficiary designation they have on file, or to the estate if there's no beneficiary named. So if there's been any collateral assignment, or if there's been any change to a beneficiary, possibly in the life insured's will or the owner's will, then that information is going to have to be communicated to the insurance company and validated, so the insurance company can see that it's actually a different person than maybe they might have on file. But basically, the insurer is going to pay the benefits to the most recent beneficiary designation they have on file unless they get other information. Now, in the event of a dispute, Usually what happens is the insurance company will pay the death benefit into the court, and they're going to say to the courts, there's a dispute that maybe beneficiaries are claiming something different or the estate is claiming something different. What the insurer is going to do is pay the death benefit into the courts and say to the courts, you guys sort this out. We have done our part. We can't clearly see who the beneficiary is, or there's been a challenge to who we have on file as the beneficiary. And so what they will do is pay the proceeds into court so that they've done their part, and then let the courts resolve any issues that the beneficiaries have. Now, when you put in a claim, obviously that notice of claim, the insurer is going to receive that, as I said, either from the agent, the executor, a beneficiary, might even be from an employer if it's a group plan. And as I mentioned earlier, if the agent has been servicing the client, the insurer will deal with the agent where in fact they will either locate or confirm the beneficiary, help them to complete all the appropriate forms, and the agent really is going to be involved or should be involved in that process. As I said before in some of my previous presentations, as an agent, it is important for you to get involved in the claims process. If you have the opportunity to deliver the claims, the death benefit proceeds to the surviving family or to the beneficiary, this is something that you should be involved in, and shouldn't really just have the insurance company send a check in the mail to the beneficiary. You should be presented with the check, and you can take it and present it to the beneficiary. That's just good common business practice. Now, proof of claim, obviously, as I've mentioned before, whenever there's a claim, then the insurance company needs to have appropriate proof of claim. And so part of that certainly is the claims form that they have, but they may require, if in fact there was a death involved, they're going to want to have proof of death, which is usually a death certificate that this is either issued by the funeral director, or if there was a situation where there may have been an accident or the police was involved, you may have to get that death certificate from the coroner. But the insurance company is going to need a proof of death. If it's been an accident, we're going to have to prove that that death actually occurred by that accident and the death wasn't as a result of natural causes. And so this is important in situations where people might have an accidental death rider on their policy. So, if they die by accident, there is a death benefit paid under that rider. And so you're going to want to, in this situation, prove that the death was a result of an accident versus natural causes. Was the cause of death due to a coverage exclusion? Again, you may submit the claims form, but you might find that death was a result of something that might have been excluded in the policy. As you know, there are a number of standard exclusions, and again, the claims examiner in this process is going to investigate the nature of death and determine, based on the nature of death, is it one of the exclusions or not? Is it by accident or not? So they're going to do their appropriate investigation to make sure that the policy does cover the situation that the death occurred in. Now, insured's age needs to be, they need to have a record of and proof of the insured's age, that the claimant has the right to receive the benefit, and they'll want to know the name of the claimant or the beneficiary, their age, and any other pertinent information with respect to ensuring their identity. So lots of pieces to the claim process, depending on the nature of death and depending on who the claimant is. Now, a couple of interesting scenarios that insurance companies have to deal with. And so we have scenarios where, what if there has been a disappearance of an individual? Someone, maybe they've gone on a cruise and they disappeared, or they went on holiday somewhere and nobody has seen them, or, not something even as exotic as that, they may just have disappeared somewhere from home. And so, how do we determine at what point in time, if they don't show up, how do we know that they have passed away? There is no evidence, there is no body, and so what are some of the rules and regulations around these scenarios? Now, if someone that is insured has been missing for 7 years or more, then the family of that individual can ask the courts to declare them deceased. And once the courts have declared that that individual is deceased, then the insurance company will process the death claim. And other situations that you don't necessarily have to wait for this 7-year period are situations where the courts can declare that someone is deceased. And so you have this scenario where, for example, let's say there has been a plane crash. And usually if there's a plane crash, there is going to be a significant investigation. There's going to try to be confirmation from the ruins from that plane to see if they can get any DNA evidence of any of the passengers, or any evidence that in fact that passenger had died as a result of the plane crash. And in that scenario, the courts will declare that the individual is deceased, and then the claims process can begin. Now, what happens if we have 2 or more people that are covered under a policy die in the same accident? So they died at the same time. Now, you can understand the situation if I died and left the proceeds of the policy to my spouse. Then if I die and it's left to my spouse, and then my spouse consequently or subsequently dies, and he or she leaves it to someone else, then it's important in these types of situations where both the owner of the policy and the initial beneficiary died together in the same common accident. How do we know which one died first? And so usually in this scenario, they will try to determine who died first. If that is unable to do that, then some policies will state that unless it can be proved otherwise, the older person died first. And so if it's deemed to be the older person died first, that means the proceeds will then go to the survivor, the person that survived them, but that survivor is also deceased, and so the proceeds now belong to that survivor in that instant that they have survived, and then those proceeds are going to go under the terms of that individual's will. And so that's why we have in these scenarios where 2 or more people die in a common situation or a common accident, we need to have some rules in place to define how these things are going to be processed. Again, overall, in these situations where you have a disappearance or you're presuming who died first, people again can still argue that. Beneficiaries might say that's not correct, we don't agree with this, and they could launch a dispute against the estate. Once again, the insurance company, they're going to pay the proceeds into court, so they're going to discharge their own obligation under the plan. They've decided, yes, the individual is in fact deceased, and if there is a dispute, they're going to pay it into the courts and ask the court to resolve the problem between the parties that have a disagreement. So this is a standard process for insurance companies where there is a dispute. They're not going to try and solve it themselves. they're going to leave it up to the courts, the legal authorities, to come up with a resolution. Now, receiving proceeds, certainly for life insurance proceeds, the settlement options, in other words, how does the beneficiary want to receive the proceeds? Well, most people will take a check in a lump sum. Some people will say, no, I don't want that. I want you to use the proceeds of the policy to purchase an annuity. Maybe it's a life annuity. So instead of getting a lump sum of money, the beneficiary will receive payments every month for the rest of their life, or maybe an annuity for a fixed term. Maybe it's 10 years or 20 years. So that's certainly an option that's available. Or some of the beneficiaries might say, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, so just keep the proceeds on deposit, pay me some interest on that until I decide what I want to do with the proceeds. Now, the insurance company must pay out the claims money within 30 days of receiving satisfactory evidence of the claim. So they're going to request certain evidence, death certificates or whatever else they need. Once they've got all the stuff that they've requested, they must pay out the claim within 30 days of that time. And so the proceeds that are being paid out, this decision, whether to receive it in a lump sum or an annuity or to hold it on deposit, this is usually made by the beneficiary. So the beneficiary has these choices in terms of how to receive these proceeds. Now, why would an insurance company deny a claim? So the claim comes in, they're doing their investigation, they're going through all of the claims forms and the other material or the other information that they require, and they decide to deny that claim. Well, maybe they've uncovered a fraudulent situation, and so insurance fraud would be a reason for denying a claim. Another situation may be that the payment goes against the public order, the rules or regulations in society. So maybe the beneficiary caused the death of the life insured in order to collect the proceeds. And so this is a situation that is not acceptable behavior. It's against public policy. And so that may be deemed fraud. But in that scenario, the payment of the claim may be denied, or in fact the claim has come in and they find out that the policy has in fact been lapsed, or in some situations the time to make a claim has expired. This might be years and years, and then suddenly later on somebody puts in a claim. Now, the insurance companies, depending on the company and the terms of their policy, may have a time frame within which claims should be made. And so you might find this applying to maybe disability policies or these living benefit types of policies. And there may be situations in some life insurance policies where this time frame may be applicable. So let's look at the other types of policies. Accident and sickness claims. Now, obviously, in this type of, for sickness claims, then usually the benefit is paid to the insured, the person that suffers the injury, the disability, or the critical illness. Now, obviously, if it was a loss of life, for example, accidental death, then that's going to be payable to the beneficiary. But again, in all of these scenarios, and every one we're going to talk about, insurance companies want appropriate proof that the claim is valid. And certainly on living benefit types of policies, we're going to want to have medical evidence of that disability or that illness. It'll be part of the normal requirements that the claims examiner at the insurance company are going to want to look at. Disability claims, again, you must provide evidence to show the claim is valid. So you are disabled. You obviously are going to have to satisfy the definition under the disability policy. You may recall in our discussions of disability income how critical it is to make sure that you understand the definition of disability and so your disability in the event of a claim actually meets what is covered under the policy, under the definition, on the clauses that define what under the policy they mean by being totally disabled or partially disabled. Now, in addition to that, the insurer is going to notify if they need any other information. They may need attending physician statements. Most policies for disability claims, you're going to have that waiting period or the elimination period before benefits are going to be paid. And what's critical on disability claims is that there are going to be ongoing assessments and monitoring. So if you're disabled, you're going to have a rehabilitation program that you have to follow. And so the insurance companies want to make sure that you are following the rehabilitation plan, and they're going to assess your improvement along the way. And if they find that you have not been following the rehabilitation program, they in fact could then decline ongoing payments. So you have a commitment where you have a disability claim that you must be able to follow the rehab program, because they're going to come back and assess and monitor how you are doing. Critical illness insurance. You may recall critical illness is a lump sum payment. If you survive a critical illness that's been covered, you have to, under the policy, you have to survive that illness for a period of 30 days. And if you survive by a period of 30 days, then you will receive this lump sum payment. So it's a lump sum payment if you qualify under the critical illness policy. And once that payment has been made, your policy is no longer going to be in force. So the policy is terminated after the lump sum payment is made. If you get one of the critical illnesses and survive 30 days. So that's the critical illness insurance. Segregated funds. What's a little different here, again, the value of those funds that are going to be paid to the beneficiary in the event of death or claim is going to be the value of those units on the date of death. And so it might be that the policy, it takes some time, maybe a couple of weeks after the date of death, to notify the insurance company that there was a death and there is a claim under the seg fund policy. And usually what ends up happening is they'll go back and look at the value of the policy on the date of death, and that's the value that's going to be payable to the beneficiary. Now, obviously on a seg fund policy, the owner can always surrender the plan at any time. And if you surrender the plan, again, it's going to be the unit value following the date that they receive that request to surrender. And in some situations, depending on the segregated fund policy, you might have a surrender charge applicable in the early years to the amount of money that you're surrendering. If the policy was used to fund a pension plan, we might find that the value will be locked in. As you may recall, money from a pension plan, originating in a pension plan, needs to be locked in until the person is of the eligible age under the original pension plan to start receiving benefits. And so this is a scenario where it may be locked in either in a locked-in retirement account, a LIRA, or a locked-in RSP. And so if you want to surrender those and it originated in the pension plan, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do that until your eligible pension date under the original plan. Okay, annuities now. So annuities, as you know, there are two different kinds of annuities that were discussed in this course. We have immediate annuities and deferred annuities. So an immediate annuity simply says I take a lump sum of money and I purchase an annuity, and the payments, the monthly or annual payments, start right away. And so in immediate annuities, you recall that many of them have a guarantee period. And so you may have a guarantee period of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It might be a life annuity where at least 10 years of payments or 120 months of payments are guaranteed. And so as long as the annuitant is alive, and they'll receive these monthly payments. And in fact, they'll receive the monthly payments until they die if it is a life annuity. If it's a life annuity with a guaranteed payment period, so they may have 120 payments guaranteed. If the annuitant dies, let's say after 7 years, in a 10-year guarantee period, there are 3 more years of guaranteed payments that are going to be payable, and those are going to be paid to the beneficiary. So the beneficiary is going to receive the remaining of those guaranteed payments. Obviously, if the annuitant dies beyond the guaranteed payment period, then there's no ongoing payments that are going to be made. In some cases, some plans will allow the beneficiary to commute any remaining payments. So again, in my example, I said the annuitant died after 7 years. They had a 10-year guarantee period. So those 3 remaining years of payments, in some situations, the insurance company will allow the commutation or the present value calculation of those remaining 3 years or those remaining 36 months of payments. They'll calculate the present value and they could give the beneficiary the lump sum equivalent of that instead of having to continue to make those 36 monthly payments. So that's an option that's available. A deferred annuity, you may recall, this is similar actually to a GIC that's offered from a banking institution. It's kind of the insurance company equivalent of a GIC. And so it's basically got an accumulation period. So money accumulates during the deferred period. And in fact, if death occurs during that deferred or accumulation period, the value is paid to the beneficiary. If, however, the deferred period ends and the owner says, I want to now start receiving the annuity payments, then it's treated the same as an immediate annuity. So, a deferred annuity simply means you can accumulate for a number of years and you can pick different terms of investments, but eventually at the end, you have the option to start converting this into an immediate annuity or simply take the money out and do whatever you want with it. So make sure you understand the differences between immediate annuities and deferred annuities with respect to death or the claims under these plans. So these are the summary of how claims and the payment of benefits are managed for these different types of insurance and investment plans we have discussed in this program.